Welcome to Heidi Relationships. Today, we'll read some more stories from Reddit. But before we start, I would really appreciate if you could subscribe to the channel, like the video if you enjoyed it, and maybe leave a comment down below. That would help the channel a lot. Thank you very much in advance.
The first one is titled, Fiancé's ex-wife has cancer. Now he moved back in with her and postponed our wedding. Max and I dated for 2 years and have been engaged for 9 months, with the wedding date set for early January. We have a healthy, honest relationship, and I've never had any reason to doubt him. He and Caroline were high school sweethearts who married very young. They were both 22, right out of college. They divorced after 2 years. Max told me that they got married too quickly and didn't realize how different their relationship would be in the real world, when they were both working full-time jobs and struggling to pay the rent. They split up on good terms but didn't keep in touch. He remained in our home city, while she pursued a modeling career and began traveling extensively. 3 months ago, Caroline contacted Max over Facebook out of the blue, saying she was in town and wanted to meet for coffee. He agreed. Over coffee, she told him that she had recently been diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. Her odds of survival were low, but she was determined to fight it through surgery and chemo. She said that all she wanted was for Max to be by her side throughout her treatment. Caroline's parents died shortly after she married Max. She has no siblings and the rest of her family lives overseas. She described Max as the closest thing to family she has left. I absolutely sympathize with Caroline. The next day Max had her over to our apartment and she was completely lovely, clearly trying very hard to be optimistic even in the face of her life potentially ending before she turns 30. I feel terrible for her and for the situation that she's in, and I fully supported Max being there for her. Her first surgery was later that month. Max flew across the country. We live on the East Coast, she's on the West, and checked into a hotel a few minutes from her apartment. He's a writer, so working from his laptop is no issue. We spoke on the phone or on Skype almost every day for the 2 weeks he was over there. Caroline had her surgery at the beginning of June. Unfortunately, it was not entirely successful. Her doctors moved to the next method, chemo. Max came home after her surgery to tell me this. He explained that Caroline's treatment plan was set to begin in July and end in late January. It would be an incredibly difficult time period for her, and she wanted him with her at all times. We can't afford to pay for a hotel until January, so he moved into her apartment, sleeping on her sofa. He's been there for the past month, and we continue to Skype, though only a couple times a week now. When we spoke yesterday, Max gently told me that based on Caroline's condition, he wouldn't feel right leaving her so close to the end of her treatment. He'd like for us to postpone the wedding until February, at the very least, so that he can stay with her until her treatment is over. I'm so conflicted. I feel awful for resenting Caroline at all. She has cancer. She's suffering immensely, but the resentment is still there. I resent her for needing Max constantly holding her hand, as though she has absolutely no friends of her own. I resent Max, too, for agreeing to this situation. We won't be seeing each other in person for months now, on top of our wedding being postponed. I don't know what to do. I have no idea how I'm supposed to feel. Right now, I'm just full of anger and guilt, and I don't know how to explain it to anyone else in my life. A user in the comments said, I feel horribly crass saying this, but I can't imagine them living together, as former lovers, near the possible end of her life, and them not sleeping together at some point. Admittedly, she'll be in an awful physical state, but it's such an emotionally charged situation that it's highly likely. It might be a good idea to schedule a couple sessions with an experienced relationship and grief counselor because it's an unusual problem, and if handled inappropriately it could end your relationship. Another user said, her request that he pick up his life and live with her indefinitely is extremely unreasonable. She will likely die, but what if she hangs on for years of painful treatment? Will he be expected to be there through all that? Will you be expected to just wait it out and not start your married life? And I know you say she sees him as family, but she's not treating him well at all if she's asking him to completely derail his future to provide her with a better present. Yes, she has cancer and that's awful. But that does not give her license to hijack your husband. Her expectations are outrageous, but your husband is the real problem. Not only has he abandoned you physically, but he hardly ever contacts you. He gives Caroline 24/7 attention but can't be bothered to Skype with you every day? Dude. The next one is titled, Update to the Ex-Wife Cancer Story. First off, thank you all so much for your advice and words of support. I'm sorry that I couldn't reply to every comment, reply, or PM that I got, but I woke up to a locked post and over 100 unread messages. I promise, I did read through every one of them. Each perspective was incredibly helpful and made me look at the situation in a completely different way. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. I spoke to Max this morning. I told him that as terrible as I feel for Caroline, I don't want him living over there until February. I suggested that we brainstorm some sort of schedule that allowed him to continue visiting her, even postponing our honeymoon and using that money to fund his plane tickets. Several commenters brought up her moving over here for treatment, so I mentioned that as well, offering up our spare bedroom. I emphasized that I didn't fault him for wanting to help an old loved one in what could be her final days, but that I couldn't help but feel marginalized, especially so close to our wedding. Max didn't speak very much, just listened while I rambled on. When I couldn't think of anything else to add, I asked him to please say something. So, he told me the truth. Caroline was never stage 4. She was stage 2. He assured me that the rest of his story is true. Caroline asking him to be with her, the initial surgery being unsuccessful, her chemo treatment plan, etc. But apparently her chances of survival are far greater than he led me to believe. Max said he lied because he felt it was the only way I could understand his need to be with her. He thought that if her situation seemed less dire than literal life or death, I wouldn't agree to him essentially moving across the country for her. He admitted to telling her that our wedding had been postponed to next August, giving her the impression that him being away until February would be no problem. He has also been the one insisting on remaining by her side. After her surgery, she had given him permission to return home, saying that it wouldn't be fair to pressure him into living with her throughout her entire chemo treatment, as much as she would have liked him there. He refused to leave. He told her that I supported this decision fully. Max swears that he's not in love with her still, but I just can't believe that. He lied to my face. Before she visited our apartment back in May, he warned me not to mention her being stage 4 as she was still extremely sensitive about it. And I completely bought into that lie. I trusted him. He put his past with her over his future with me. I'll be spending the next few months apartment hunting and canceling wedding plans. Thank you all for your kind words. The next one is titled, How Do I, 31M, Assure My Wife, 26F, that she has nothing to feel bad about while being a stay-at-home mom? Hey, I'm at a bit of a loss on what to do about my wife's guilt about being stay-at-home mom. My wife has had a rough life and has always had to work to support herself and her siblings. She's never had a moment to herself or to really relax. She's always been taking care of other people emotionally, financially, physically. She worked as a secretary for most of the time I've known her, don't worry. She wasn't my secretary. It's not that kind of story. I was lucky enough to have parents that came from money from a rather large business. I never wanted to be a Beverly Hills brat that didn't go to school or work for any of their own money. But it's worth noting that I had an account open last year and I will again in 9 years. About 6 months ago I got a promotion at my job. What I'm trying to say here is that there is a class gap in our marriage. I've never cared about that. I love my wife and our children, 6-year-old boy, 4-year-old girl, and 6-month-old boy. Over a year ago she started to seem really exhausted with everything. Pumping at work, not working in a great area, and feeling guilt about not being around the kids. I suggested that she could quit work if she wanted. I didn't want to pressure her into it, so I only mentioned once and then I mentioned it again a week or 2 later. She asked if I was sure, was being serious, and if we'd have enough money to be okay. I assured her we would, and she put in her 2 weeks' notice. She is a kick-ass stay-at-home mom. She's great and I'm happy she can relax some. If anyone deserves it, I believe it's her. I know just from reading around on Reddit that even for stay-at-home mom getting the cleaning done can be stressful. So, I still have the maid service coming in twice a week. My wife still volunteers and has a life of her own. I'm trying to get to the point. My wife feels insanely guilty over staying at home. I've assured her it's fine. She switched out all of her kind of expensive skin products with cheaper ones. On Mother's Day I got her a necklace that was about $1K that I thought she'd like. She was appreciative and really did like it. But later on, admitted to me that she felt bad I had spent that much money. She shops at low-end stores. Which all of this is fine. I'm not mad at her for doing it. I just don't want her to walk on eggshells all the time that if she wants to go out with her friends for drinks or a spa day we're suddenly going to go broke or I'm going to be upset with her. She doesn't feel this way about the kids, or at least doesn't show it. She only seems upset when I spend money on her. The only thing with the kids is if I buy the kids something nice she gets really worried over the object, clothing, whatever, and if it breaks, gets a stain, etc. I want my wife to have whatever she wants. She's the sweetest, kindest woman on earth. She contributes so much to our relationship and family. I don't care that it's not money. A user in the comments said, I don't have any advice but while reading your post all I was thinking is, God I love him. What a great man, husband, father he must be. Seriously keep up the good work with the family. Sounds like you're very thoughtful and appreciate what you have. Another user said, maybe instead of reassuring her that it's okay to splurge, not bring in money, you two could do the monthly budget together, and or put some money aside for her personal use. That way she may gain a more visual understanding of how much money is going out versus in, and she may feel more at ease with everything. Also, it may help to acknowledge out loud the work that she's doing and how much she's contributing. I'm sure she puts many hours into taking care of everyone, and she may not realize it herself. I wouldn't worry too much about her buying cheaper things. Maybe that's just her way of coping, and she feels better and more responsible this way. Like that sacrifice is her way of contributing financially. The next one is titled, Update. How do I, 31M, assure my wife, 26F, that she has nothing to feel bad about while being a som? Thank you for the wonderful messages of support, advice, and even some of the harsher reality checks. I realized really quickly that the issue wasn't guilt about being a som. It was that I hadn't been communicating well about money. I approached her when all of the kids were asleep, busy, etc. It wasn't the type of discussion that I wanted to get interrupted. I, as directly as I could, told her about my concerns and worries about everything with money, her feeling afraid, what everything looked like from my side, and apologized that I hadn't been direct enough in telling her. She admitted that it did bother her that she didn't know how much I was making, which left her blind as to what was okay, what wasn't. She also shared with me that when we were at a small get-together for my family that a family member of mine, cousin, not parents or siblings, made a few snarky comments about how one of her friends was a som and then her husband left her with nothing, got bitter about it. What does she do all day, yada yada. A bunch of bullcrap. I guess she had also made a few comments about how a lot of men got their wife expensive gifts when they were cheating. This cousin is nothing but a raging mess who can't keep a friend or a boyfriend around for more than 3 weeks at a time. So, she can go duck herself. I don't have a big connection to her anyway. So, it's not like it'll cause a bunch of drama for me to block her everywhere. So, we did that. I offered to let her go through my computer, phone, etc. I didn't know what else to do there to prove that I'm not cheating. Keep in mind, she was not aggressively insisting it. She didn't really, actually, truly think I was cheating. The comments just made her insecure because she, her words, has baby weight to lose. My wife assured me that she didn't want to go through any of my stuff and that she trusts me. I'm still slightly fuming about any family causing drama, but thankfully I only have to see her once every few years. I figured, after I thought about it, that a serious family discussion didn't need to happen in a FA's office. At least not immediately. I did re-give her his number and she can go see him whenever she wants if she needs assurance or something else. We sat down and talked about my income each year, how much of that was going into what, and how much was left over for fun, money. Guilt started bubbling and she felt bad, which is when I did whip out the prices of nannies, cleaning ladies, etc. Thanks for that suggestion. My wife, as precious as she is, made me cut down the maid's portion in half because we do still have someone come in sometimes. Either way, it was still a large amount. We talked for a few hours, and I asked her if she wanted to see the FA. So, we have that scheduled to go there soon. It was a long discussion that got interrupted despite our best efforts. I asked if she wanted to go therapy and she said yes. So, she made me take off how much it would be to get someone to regularly come in each week off of the babysitting column of my "This is how much money you save us" list. So, she's going to start therapy in 2 weeks. I love my wife. We talked for a long time about retirement, the kids' future, money in general, how she felt about it, etc. Sorry, I don't have any super exciting news or drama to report. I just wanted to tell anyone who was curious how it went. I know we probably still have some communication issues to work through. Her making me cut down and edit the list of services shows me that she still does have some old issues surrounding money, which she did admit to. But as long as we're going forward, we'll get there. P.S. She did go and buy her regular non-cheap skincare stuff. The next one is titled, Iada for asking wife to stop being friends with my ex. My wife, DW, and I have been married 2 years, and 4 months ago she ended up befriending an old ex of mine. They now follow each other's socials, chat somewhat regularly, and have met up 4 times. The way they started talking is kind of story in itself, so I don't want to go too much into it, but to put it briefly, they didn't have anything to do with each other until one day DW needed to message X about something unrelated to me. Then they just got talking and ended up getting along. I feel for this Iada to work. I have to share details of my relationship with X. We dated for a year in 2016. It was pretty serious, although unhappy. 3 months in she cheated with a very close friend of mine. Safe to say this broke me, but I chose to forgive her and stay together. The relationship never really recovered from that, and eventually she left me. We haven't spoken since. 1 year after the split I met DW. When I first found out about them speaking, I told my wife I was fine about it. I'll admit I found it a little surprising and weird, but I didn't want to make a huge deal about it, and I supposed it was good DW as making friends. As time has passed though, I've quickly grown less and less comfortable. I hate the thought of them bad-mouthing me to each other behind my back, and I don't like the feeling that X is being reintroduced into my life. Even though I don't personally see or interact with her, I've told some friends and family about it, and they all find it weird and think it's a bad idea. Recently I told DW all this and that I'd come to the conclusion I don't want her to have anything to do with X anymore. She was not happy about this at all. She says I'm being very unfair by trying to make her cut off her friend, because if I had a problem with it I should have said so in the first place rather than allowing it to continue and for her to grow attached. A couple days after that, DW needed to go meet with X to pick something up from her. I was cool with this as it was plans made from before the pre-mentioned conversation. When DW announced she was heading out, I told her I want to come with her. As soon as I said that I saw her face drop, she immediately started saying that she didn't want me to. I promised I'd wait round the corner while she picked the stuff up from X. That's all they were meeting for. But she was still adamant I shouldn't be there because X doesn't want to see you. I ended up just letting her go as I didn't want to fall out. Now I'm not sure what to do next. I'm still not okay with the friendship, so maybe I should bring it up again, but I don't want to fight with my wife. If I make her choose between me and X, I honestly worry he may choose X. Last time I brought it up DW was upset and said I was being unreasonable and unfair. What if she's right? If I just ignore it and let it carry on though it's going to continue eating at me, and I don't know what effect it will have on our marriage. So, am I tough for making my wife stop talking to her friend? A user in the comments said, "It's bizarre that of all people, your wife chooses to befriend the woman who cheated on you. She shouldn't be surprised you might be uncomfortable with the idea. But you would have probably made more headway on this discussion by discussing your concerns and insecurities so your wife can understand how you feel and figuring out together how to navigate friendships with X, instead of just telling your wife, 'I don't want you hanging out with X anymore.' That makes you sound like her parent more than her partner." Another user said, "A diagnosed narcissist who's leaving out important context for why his wife contacted his ex. They badmouth him by sharing details of his abusive behavior? Honestly, if your wife would choose a friend over you, you don't have much of a marriage left to begin with." Oh, and YTA. This is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed the relationship stories. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video and write a comment. I really appreciate your support and it helps my channel so much. Thank you.